welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Chloe and today we are going to be talking through all the books that I read in November. So this is my November reading wrap up and I read 3 books, a total of 3, and I have a lot to say about them. I've literally gone on my tablet and I've written a page and a half of notes of things to say because I remember them quite well at the moment. So let's just get right into it. The first book that I read this month / finished reading this month was Bossy Mogul by Scarlett Avery, and I gave this book 2.25 stars, I think. I wasn't a huge fan. Now, don't get me wrong, it was good. It was really good. It follows the story of a girl called Ariana and then a guy called Beckett, and basically they get trapped in a lift together, and when they get trapped there's no lights or anything, it all cuts out, the power cuts out, so they can't see each other and they get to know each other quite well. And then the lights come on, she realises he's this really fit guy and is oh my god, but she's basically sworn off guys and men because of how her ex treated her and left her. He basically left her for her cousin. So anyway, she leaves it, they both walk their separate ways, and he's kind of she's gonna be mine. And it kind of that's the last we hear of that bit. But then maybe I feel it's a little bit later, it's not that long in the story, but I think it's maybe set a week later, or I don't know how long, but anyway, she basically begins working for him he's her client, because she does this thing where she works with businesses to increase their revenue and stuff like that, and they hire her for a specific role. I can't remember what role it is, but yeah, so she begins working for him, but at the same time he's her client, but he's the CEO of the business, so really, really, really crazy. But it's basically just a little workplace romance, and it has a lot of twists and turns. If you like the sharing a bed trope, that's in there too. So yeah, I honestly, it was really good. I do recommend a lot of it. I really liked how they explored her trauma and things like that, particularly from her past relationship and how that's affected her and how much she relies on seeing or not seeing information about them. But the reason it only got 2.25 stars is because I did feel it was really dragged out. It was 400 and something pages. I read it on Kindle and it took me forever. I felt it was just so dragged out. I felt I should be near the end, and I felt that from very early on in the book. So I think that's why it's kind of getting a lower rating for me, because it just felt to go on way too long. I feel for me, this book was very, very, very heavy on the smut and on that side of things. And I feel this is where I discovered that I don't love that in all books. Don't get me wrong, there's some that I'm it's fine. However, I just wasn't a huge fan in this book. Certain books I'm fine with and I'm okay with, and I feel they're the ones where it really adds something to the story. Don't get me wrong, this was detrimental to the whole story of this book, but I just wasn't that fussed. So maybe I'm not a huge fan of smutty romance books, who knows. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it. But if you like that sort of thing, I would really recommend this book. It was, the way that it was written was really nice, and the writing was really nice. It's just, for me, it went on way too long and I wasn't a huge fan of all the smutty scenes, and yeah. But yeah, 2.25 stars. Now, the next book that I read this month was Normal People by Sally Rooney. I don't know where to start with this book. I honestly don't, because it's literally over there, I think. I don't know, but I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go from here, because, okay, let's start by saying I gave it 4 stars. Okay, I don't know if that should be higher. I don't know if it should be lower. I don't know if I'm just kind of feeding in to the kind of love around this book, and I don't know. However, I started the series first. I'd seen a couple of people recommend it. I'd seen Sydney Martin recommend it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch that. So started the series, and I got maybe to the end of the 2nd episode, and I was like, I want to read the book first. So I managed to get my hands on the book, and I found the writing style very confusing, especially more towards the end when I started to not know what was going on in the series. Because I'd watched the series, it definitely helped me grasp who was saying what, where, like what was dialogue, what wasn't, because sometimes it was quite hard to tell because there was no like quotation marks and there was nothing like that. So it's very difficult getting used to that because it's a very different style of writing, but I did really enjoy it. And yeah, it was an interesting read. I still haven't watched the rest of the series yet. I need to, but I also feel like I want to go back and start it from the beginning. So I'm going to wait till I finish my assignments because that's the number 1 priority right now. But anyway, for anyone that doesn't know, Normal People follows a guy called Connell and a girl called Marianne, and basically they grew up in the same town, and they kind of develop this sort of relationship which isn't exclusive in any way at all. They kind of don't see other people, but no one knows, and Connell's very kind of ashamed of people knowing, I guess. They're very, very different people. So Connell's family are quite poor, is the way that it's kind of portrayed, and Marianne's family is very, very, very rich. Like, they have a massive house, and Connell's mum cleans for Marianne's family. Yeah, I mean, Marianne barely sees her family. She doesn't have a great relationship with them, whereas Connell gets on really well with his mum and talks to her all the time. So yeah, you basically get to see their relationship over the years, and it's just a really beautiful kind of story. And yeah, I can't really remember how it ends, purely because I haven't watched the series, it took me a lot longer to finish this like second half of the book because I didn't have that kind of reference. So I'd say if you struggled with it first time, watch the series and then try and read the book again, because it's very, very, very different. And I've heard so many people say the same thing, that after they've watched the series, they've either rated the book so much higher or they've kind of been able to read the book a lot easier. So yeah, I would really recommend both the series and the book, to be honest. It was my first ever Sally Rooney book. My first ever. I've never read one of her books before, but have one literally sat right here, which I've had for a while. And then I remember just thinking one day, oh my gosh, I have a Sally Rooney book sat down, like right down here. And I pulled it to the top of the pile, and I'm definitely going to read it soon. But yeah, so that's the second book that I read this month. Okay, so let's move on to the third and final book that I read in November. And that was, oh, it's right here actually, I haven't returned it yet. I feel like I'm doing one of those silent review things. When I say, this book, I haven't even written like what rating I'm giving it. What do I give it? I'm so tempted to give it 5 stars. Do you know what? Let's do it. 5 stars. Let's go. This was my favourite book by Hannah Grace yet. It was my favourite book in the series. I just can't cope. So it follows Hallie and Henry, that's his name. So basically Hallie is very much a people pleaser, and she's kind of just gotten out of a relationship that she put the other person first a lot, and she'd arranged a lot of things, and she always kind of offers her time out to other people, neglects herself, neglects what she needs to do in order to help other people. She never really puts herself first or anything like that. She just kind of takes everything on without saying no, and I related to that so much because I do that too, and I hate saying no to people. And then Henry, I actually read the, if you've got this book, read the author's note at the beginning. Where is it? Oh, A Letter from Hannah. Read that, because it's basically about how Henry kind of does have ADHD traits, and they're very obvious throughout the book, but he's never diagnosed throughout this book, and it's basically the reason why she didn't decide for him to be diagnosed and officially given that like umbrella term. They both kind of have these like flaws. I wouldn't even call them flaws, to be honest, and basically they both offer to help each other. Her with like Henry's classwork, because there's one particular class that he like fails and isn't doing very well in because he doesn't like the tutor, he doesn't like doing the work for it, there's so much reading, etc, etc. So she helps him with that, and he helps her with her book. I'm just going to say that because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but she's writing a book and he's helping her with that. And this book was just so much more than a romance novel. It was so much more than the others. I loved how much like the majority of this book was their friendship developing, and then like they were getting together nearer to the end, and I loved seeing how they like grew to care for each other and things that they were doing for one another, and how like they so frequently crossed that boundary between friends and like lovers, but that was kind of never discussed, and like they do like relationshipy things without having that kind of label on things, and everyone would be kind of like, oh, okay. But I was just literally, this was the ideal romance book. I was kicking my legs, I was giggling, I loved it so much. It was like the butterfly feeling, I loved it. And yeah, honestly, I just recommend this book to everyone. Even if you didn't like Icebreaker and Wildfire, I'm telling you, this one is so different. The spice rating is a lot less. There's probably like 2 or 3 chapters that are kind of spicy, but it's not a lot, especially compared to the other 2. But yeah, whether you did or didn't like the first 2 books in the series, I would recommend this one. I'm just in love with it. I'm honestly in love with it, and I can't wait to see what the next one will be, but I don't think anything's going to top this for me. So do you know what? Yes, 5 stars. Take this 5 stars, because it was just amazing. Nothing's going to top it. I say that. Watch me say this with the next one or something, but I'm obsessed with this. I would really recommend. And yeah, I think I just fell in love with the characters. That's what it was. The characters were so lovable and so likable, and I loved getting to know them. And yeah, this one was it for me. This was it. That is all the books that I have read in November. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you again soon for a brand new video. Bye!